Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, and we are here on this lovely Wednesday morning. Not really much news going on with NBA basketball, or basketball in general, really. It's really been it's been a slow news week for basketball. Not really many intriguing stories going on that I'm usually expecting, towards the end of the season. I'm really, expecting, a blockbuster Woj bomb, whoa, Joel Embiid is expected to return in 2 weeks or something like that, or in a week from now or something like that. But no, so far, that has not happened yet, so we are just sitting here waiting for the playoffs to start, and if you're a college fan waiting for the Sweet 16 to get underway, that's when the real news is going to end up starting. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit. In the first segment, I'm going to talk about the Lakers game because it was a very, very good game to watch. No LeBron, no problem. And it went into double overtime. And when games go into double overtime, they last forever. And it means some of the players play forever. Hint, hint. In the next segment, I'm going to do a little bit of a comparison with how the NCAA handles basketball and how the NBA handles basketball. And it's going to be a comparison because some analyst on TV said something that was very intriguing to me, and I really wanted to comment on that. But then in the third segment, we're going to do our recap of all the games that went down the other day. There weren't that many, so we do have more time, I'll talk about some of the games that went down the day before that I didn't get to, because there was a lot of people in the chat. So since there aren't that many people in the chat right now, we'll go ahead and see exactly what games were played. We also have our fourth segment, so just stay tuned for that. But before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody, please, to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link that is displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and get into our first segment, which is talking about the Lakers winning. I mean, it felt like almost yesterday where I said, oh my gosh, this Lakers team is really bad. And they've somehow turned that all around coming towards the final days of the season. Now, I don't understand why they couldn't turn this on way before in the beginning of the season, but doesn't matter. Maybe all of this is just like a game. Maybe LeBron's just playing around with the league and is like, okay, I'm gonna be bad so that we could lower everyone's expectations, and then when they least expect it, I turn up and start hooping. That's sort of what it seems like with this team. And for some reason, I do not understand what is the point in going all out now instead of going all out from the start. But I guess they just wanted to be healthy come playoffs. Regardless, I still think it's definitely better for your team so that way you can have a better position in the playoffs so you don't have to play play-in games. That way, if you come out strong, you don't have to play those play-in games, and you give LeBron time to rest, which is ultimately the goal here. But let's talk about the game itself. So the game went into double overtime. Anthony Davis got 34 points and 23 rebounds and played 52 minutes. This man is different. 52 minutes, and we used to say he was made out of glass. We called him Mr. Glass. We called him all these types of things. We always make fun of him, but now he's barely missed any games this Lakers season, and he literally just played 52 minutes. So it shows that these players, they 100% can keep themselves healthy. Sometimes they just don't want to play. And I thank the Lord that the NBA introduced the new rule of needing 65 games in order to be eligible for to be compensated for all NBA teams, or even be considered to join all NBA teams. It is one of the best additions that the NBA has added, because now we actually get to see these players in the regular season. There's no random news like, oh, this guy went down with an injury. Oh, this guy's going to load manage. There's none of that. Like, that's honestly like sort of the drama that we were missing. We were missing Kawhi Leonard just missing games because he's wants to load manage. We were missing Kyrie Irving just missing games because he wants to miss games because, I don't know, there's a crisis going on in Ukraine or there's a crisis going on in Israel/Palestine, whatever you want to call it. Whatever kind of problems may have come up, like, or whatever excuses Kyrie would have brought up just to not play the game. There's none of that this season. And it's really like it's leaving me not much room to talk about a lot of things, but still, I'm gonna make it work. You know me. Austin Reeves, he ended the game 10 for 20, 50% from the field. Very nice. 29 points. And D'Angelo Russell, he also ended with 29 points, but he shot a little bit more inefficient, going 7 of 22 from the field and 5 of 12 from 3. He hit all of his free throws, though, and that was the big difference maker between this team and the Bucks. The free throws taken and the free throws made. The free throw differential for the Lakers was 32 to 17. And this has been something that the Lakers have sort of been getting away with. Like, of all the teams to play their NBA games, I believe they get the most foul calls. Like, and you know, it's expected, like, when you are the Lakers with how you play. I mean, you tend to take a lot of inside shots, given how, you know, LeBron, he always takes those inside shots. And Anthony Davis also takes inside shots. And obviously, it leaves more room for you to get fouled. So, it makes total sense. Excuse me. But it is a little bit inconvenient if you are literally any other team, because this free throw differential is like, it happens almost every single time. Austin Reeves, he also notched 50 minutes in this game. Actually, wait, no. Well, 48 minutes. Close to 50 minutes, but 48 minutes. He also ended with a triple-double with 14 rebounds and 10 assists. 29 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists. This is very, very good production coming in from this Lakers team, and this is the kind of production that is expected of them and what they should be able to do going into the playoffs. Like, the fact that the Lakers are able to beat the Bucks, who were just like coming off of a big win against Oklahoma and who have been winning recently, this is a very, very good step in the right direction for the Lakers. And the Bucks, it's not like they played bad in this game either. Giannis ended the game with 29 points, 21 rebounds, and 11 assists. So, a pretty good triple-double, if you ask me. Damian Lillard ended the game with 27 points. He also fouled out with 6 personal fouls. But honestly, it was probably a little bit better that he wasn't playing, because in the game, he shot 9 for 29. 9 for 29 for 27 points and going 3 of 14 from 3. That is pitiful. Like, I don't know what's going on with Dame. Like, he's shooting very inefficient when Giannis is playing. But when Giannis doesn't play, he shoots the ball so much better. I don't understand what the pressure is. I don't understand why it's like, it's weird. Is it illegal for Damian Lillard to play good with help? Is it illegal? Like, I don't understand why why he always has these performances when Giannis has these fantastic performances. Dame is literally holding this team back from being the elite team that I thought they were in the beginning of the season. I thought they would figure it out by now, but they haven't, and I don't understand how. Like, it's not that difficult of a concept, I don't think it is. I mean, Damian Lillard, he played a lot better on Portland when there was literally all the attention was on him. Now the attention is split between him and Giannis. Why isn't he playing well with Giannis? That does not make any sense to me, and it really boggles my mind, and I don't understand why he's lacking. Like, it's literally like he's lacking. How was he even an all-star? Explain to me, people in the comments, how is this man even an all-star? Does not make any sense to me whatsoever. But I digress. So, the rest of the people Malik Beasley, he played really well. 8 of 18 from the field, 21 points, 5 of 14 from 3. If these guys were to hit just a little bit more shots than they did, they would have ended up winning this game without a doubt. Just a little bit more. Let's see, looking more on the box scores. Chris Middleton ended the game 4 of 15 from the field. So, again, he wasn't doing that well either. These players, the other options that are expected to perform, they just aren't performing. And that's been the problem with the Bucks. And that's also been the problem with the Lakers. Right now, thankfully, the Lakers, they were able to put on a great performance to sort of mitigate all of that and, like, give the Lakers fans hope and give me hope that... Because remember, the Lakers, they didn't have LeBron in this game. So these players, they did all of this without LeBron James. Like 12 assists coming in from D'Lo, 23 rebounds coming in from AD, and 14 coming in from Austin Reeves, and 10 assists. Like, this is really good. This is really good performance coming in from this team. A really good performance. Like 40 right now their record is 40-32. The Los Angeles Lakers, they're well in the play-in spot. They are way ahead of the Golden State Warriors in terms of record, and they're also ahead of the Houston Rockets in terms of record as well. So I don't think the Lakers have to worry about playing them in the near future. I don't think the Lakers have to worry about not making the play-in in the near future. That's what I meant to say. And they have a good shot in catching up to the Suns spot right now. The Suns right now are the 8th seed, which is honestly very surprising, especially with a team that has Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Excuse me. Like, I think this Phoenix Suns team, again, very surprising that they're even in this situation. Like, the Pelicans should be the team that is in the play-in right now compared to the Suns being in the play-in, but it is what it is. And seeing a team with KD like struggle this much really doesn't make any sense to me. And it's starting to get to that point, at least for me, where we really have to seriously talk about where KD stands, because he's not in the top 10, and I really don't think he deserves to be in the top 20 whatsoever. He is incredibly, like, his entire career has revolved around having help. And we want to put him on the level of LeBron or Steph or things like that. Like, are you serious? Like, at least Steph didn't really have that much help in the finals sometimes. Like, not saying that Jordan Poole wasn't helped, but there would be games where nobody would show up, and Steph Curry had to do what he had to do. Like, it didn't happen often, but there were games where they had to do that. And they're not on the same level. Curry and Kevin Durant, they're not on the same level. LeBron and Kevin Durant, they're not on the same level either. And I'm honestly a little bit flabbergasted that the Suns are even in the play-in spot. But speaking of play-in, I mean, the Warriors right now, they're in a very dangerous spot, because if the Houston Rockets end up coming out, like, continuing to play as good as they've been playing, I think it's a really, really big problem. Really big problem. I mean, maybe it'll stop for a little bit now, because the Houston Rockets, they are playing against the Thunder tonight at 8 o'clock. So maybe that's the breathing room that the Warriors needed, so that way they can continue to get back on track and things of that nature. And let me just see. I just want to make sure that Did the Warriors win the previous game? I'm going to check. No, they did not win the previous game that they played. It was the Timberwolves. I thought they played yesterday, but they didn't. And they played the Timberwolves, and they're going to... Actually, no, they did play yesterday, and they lost to the Heat. That's my bad. I didn't see that game. They beat the Heat 113-92. So they're coming off of a win, and now they have to go play the Orlando Magic today at 7 o'clock. So the matchups are looking much more in favor of Golden State, at least right now, to make the play-in than Houston does. But then again, what do I know? Houston could all of a sudden, like, Jalen Green might all of a sudden turn into Kobe Bryant that game and just hit clutch shot after clutch shot after clutch shot. Who knows what he could do? Because at this rate, he can do anything that he sets his mind to. That's how I feel when I've watched him play. Like, he's hitting turnarounds, and, like, I'm gonna get into him in a little bit, but with that, we are out of time for this first segment. So now I'm going to go ahead and pivot to NCAA and give a little comparison on both NCAA gameplay and the game of the NBA basketball, like the differences between both of them, as well as give a little bit of an update on what's to expect going into the Sweet 16, which is happening tomorrow and Friday. So stay tuned. I will be right back after this short break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the news it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm getting a lot of allergies right now. It's my bad. But in the second segment, we are going to be talking about the NCAA and the NBA, just comparing the two and like what are the big differences, why most people like enjoy college more, why some people don't really watch much of the NBA, things of that nature, as well as... Actually, before I get into that comparison, I might just go ahead and talk about the Sweet 16 and those games that are coming up and the odds, just to talk about them. But before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or use the link that is displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. So with that out of the way, let's go right ahead and go into the second segment, which is going to be talking about both the NBA and the NCAA. So right now, this is around the time where basketball is like its most popular, mainly in college sports right now, just because of the NCAA tournament from both the women and the men's side happening. And then directly after that is when the NBA playoffs are going to roll around and the play-in games are going to be happening. So it's a really good time to be a basketball fan at around this point of the year. And just to go over like the games that are happening in college for the Sweet 16, because that's the round that we are at right now, Clemson is going to go up against Arizona, and Arizona is projected to win by at least 7 points. So, but in this game, honestly, I would take the under. I wouldn't take the over. I would take the under on the spread, which is 151.5. And if you have Arizona money line, I would take the under on the amount of points that they win by, because they are projected to win by 7. I think at around this time in college basketball, a lot of the games are going to be a lot closer and a lot more competitive. There's not going to be a blowout game at all. I don't think so. Next game on the list is UConn going up against San Diego State. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. UConn is the most complete team in the entire NCAA tournament. And I don't really think there's much of a team that has a chance in beating them. Now, I'm going to put a little bit of a pause on UConn now. I'm going to bring them up. I'm going to bring them back up again. But I do want to get over these games that are going to happen tomorrow. North Carolina is going up against Alabama. I have North Carolina winning in a very close matchup. I think they're going to win by 3 points. And they are projected to win by at least 5 points. So Illinois is going up against Iowa State. and that's going to be that's probably going to be the best game in the entire bracket, of all the games that could be played, because Illinois is the 3rd seed and Iowa State is the 2nd, and both of those teams have a lot to prove. I really think that that is going to be a great game and one that everyone is going to want to watch. But now that we already talked about the rest of those games that went down, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about UConn, because there was something that and this will go right ahead into the topic of NCAA going up against NBA. There was a sports analyst. Now, I'm just pulling up the quote right now, just trying to find it over at somewhere in my camera roll. I just need to find it. But essentially, there's always talk around college sports. A lot of teams or a lot of analysts, they usually have these egregious takes. And here it is right here. Mike Greenberg, he said UConn would make the playoffs in the NBA's Eastern Conference. That's how good they are. I'm looking at teams that are 8 games under 500 in the play-in, and they're better than that. So a lot to unpack there, and a very egregious take, in my personal opinion, because you cannot compare college students to literal NBA athletes. That is just a comparison that is never going to work. That is something that you just shouldn't do, and that's something that it does not make any sense to do whatsoever. Chandler Parsons had some comments to say about this. He said the best player on UConn wouldn't play on the Detroit Pistons right now. That goes to show you the huge skill gap from NBA basketball to NCAA basketball. Now, why do analysts constantly say this? Why do they always try to make these comparisons? I could not tell you. I don't know what game they're watching that would compel them to say such things. I don't know what game Mike Greenberg was watching that would compel him to say something like that. But UConn, while they are a unit and they are a very, very good team, they do not compete against NBA players. NBA players are the top 1% of college athletes. Not many Division I athletes end up going to the NBA. And it really shows just how difficult it is to just make an NBA roster, because the best player on UConn wouldn't even be able to get a spot on the Detroit Pistons, who are one of the worst organizations right now and one of the worst teams right now. So for him to say that UConn can make the playoffs, the NBA playoffs, that is a ridiculous task, because you have to remember, a lot of these players on college, they do have scholarships, and yes, they are good, doesn't necessarily mean that the entire squad is going to get drafted. There are going to be players above them. There's always going to be somebody that's above. And that's literally just the challenge of being in the NBA, just being the best. And it's impossible when there's so many people who literally could be considered the best. Brian Scalabrine had this great quote. He said, "I am closer to LeBron than you are to me." You as in average Joes like us, people who are a little bit normal people. I don't want to say that being an NBA athlete isn't normal, but being that tall is very, very rare. Being a 7-footer, it's a rare talent. And being 6 feet tall, 6'4", 6'5", anything above 6'6", it's also incredibly rare. And there's a lot of them in the NBA. They're not going to, not only that, a lot of NBA players, they go in an open gym, they don't miss. These NBA players in an open gym will not miss. They just don't. And you can just watch clips of it. You can see videos of it. You know that gym that I'm sure a bunch of casual fans, they probably won't know this, but Drake has a gym that he plays, that he has scrimmages in with all these NBA players. NBA players have scrimmages in this gym. You guys know exactly what gym I'm talking about, but It's every single time in this gym, the NBA player looks like a Hall of Fame athlete. Like, the gym makes people look like the best players ever. And that's not the gym. That is just the players being that good. Like, that's just how good they are when they're shooting in an open gym. No pressure, no attention from the media, just straight basketball. They are the best of the best. But now the argument is, why do so many people watch college more than they do NBA? Like, if NBA is supposedly the best, why are we watching college, and why is there more attention focused on college? Well, part of being the best means that you somewhat know what's going to happen. Like, you, as a casual, you might not know, but as someone who watches the NBA, like, a lot, like me, and someone who's a big fan of the NBA, like me, they will know exactly, like, what the team needs to look for. So everyone is on around the same level in the NBA. They all have the exact same defensive IQ. They all have the exact same, like, offensive IQ and offensive strategy. If you know what the team is looking for, then you almost always know how the possession is going to end. Like, for example, when I watch the Boston Celtics, I understand that the Boston Celtics are going to either try running a pick and roll with Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, or they're going to allow Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown do whatever they want with the ball, and one of three things could happen when either of them has the ball. They either make the play themselves, make a play for someone else, or make a play that leads to a play for someone else. And 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be a three-point shot. If Jason Tatum drives to the hoop, everyone is going to help. And that help defense is just going to leave a wide open three. Defender on the top has to rotate down to the corner. Corner throws the ball to the guy on the wing. Open three almost every single time. And it's like wash, rinse, repeat with that offense. It's pick and rolls. You either take the shot yourself, make a play for someone else, so if the lob is open, you throw the lob, or make a play that would lead to a play to someone else, pass to the corner passes out to the wing, or fake passes, because there are times where the defender might bait that he's going to guard the corner, but in reality he's staying on the wing, depending on who the shooter is, and then that would lead into an open three almost every single time. And this happens way more often than it should, in my personal opinion, because I feel like the defenses, like, they should get used to the fact that the corner three is going to be open all the time, and the rotation should come a little bit earlier, and the switches should be a little bit different, but I digress. That's how the game is played. Now, in college, there's a lot more nuance in college. There's no guarantee that you are going to get an open three, because the spacing in college is not entirely the same. And the offensive playbook in college is also not entirely the same. There's more of a chance that a college team wins on defense than an NBA team wins on defense. And that's sort of why in the NBA, defense isn't really that valuable, because you got to score a lot more than the other team. And with that in mind, like, I sort of understand why defense isn't seen as valuable, but at the same time, what if you're not hitting your shots? You need that defense so that way, like, it can't just be like, okay, we're not hitting our shots, it's whatever, we'll get them next time. You got to be able to play some defense in there. And the lack of defense, that's also sort of made the game a little bit uninteresting to watch, like, with a bunch of other fans. Like, the NBA is very, very loose with how they call their fouls. The NCAA, they honestly, they let the players play. I've seen very few NCAA fouls in a game than I've seen NBA fouls. Like, the player in the NBA can literally just do this every single time, and they'll get the call. They will get free throws. But in college, if you were to do that, you don't get free throws. You just continue playing. And that's an aspect of the game that I really think the NBA should just bring back, just allowing these players to play. Because why? Why do we have to just take time to worry about a foul call? We should not have to worry about that. Like, it slows the game down, and while, yes, it is scoring, it's just dull. And seeing players abuse it the way they do, while I will say it is pretty smart, it's only smart because the NBA refs allow them to do that. And the NBA keeps trying to implement these new flopping rules that just eventually don't end up working because every single time when they get hit. And it's just annoying to see because it's like, just go up strong, try to score. You're not even trying to score at that point. But I digress. The play in the playoffs, however, they do sort of allow the players to decide the game a little bit more in the playoffs than they do in the regular season, but that should just be, it shouldn't be something that only happens in the playoffs. It should be a constant, in my personal opinion, because why? What is the point? And another thing that gets overlooked at in college is that there is a lot more team play, because in the NBA, you usually have that one guy that can create every type of that can create any shot for anyone. Look at Luka Doncic, look at Kyrie Irving, look at Trae Young, look at LeBron James, look at Jason Tatum, look at Zion, look at Giannis. Everyone on their team has at least one guy that can create shots for everyone else. And it sort of changed the game completely from ball movement to straight isolation and being able to see what kind of looks you can get. Where in college, it's more so ball movement, and we force you to play 5-on-5, not 1-on-1. And that's an aspect that a lot of fans can get behind because it's like, ooh, we have no idea who's going to win or who's going to get the ball or who's going to make a play. And we also have no idea who's going to end up having a dominant scoring night, which is something that, like, you could almost always predict that, oh, this player is going to play great, or, oh, this player might be a little inefficient today. That's something that's something that's easier to predict than college. But that's just my personal opinion. But with that, we are out of time for this second segment. So I'm going to go ahead into the third segment where I give a quick recap of all of the NBA games that went down yesterday. So tune in after this short break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. My bad for having that longer than normal break. Cardi just dropped, and I absolutely needed to see what he just dropped. But regardless, we are going to go ahead into the third segment and talk about not Cardi dropping a new song, but the NBA games that ended up happening yesterday, as well as some of the games that I didn't cover yesterday that I wanted to cover but couldn't. So, first game on the list, I already talked about the Lakers and Bucks. Don't need to really bring that up. First game I'm going to talk about is the Warriors going up against the Miami Heat. So, this was another game where Curry did not play well whatsoever. Klay Thompson was back in the starting lineup, so he's back in the rotation for the starting lineup. Ended the game with 28 points on 11 of 20 from the field, 6 of 14 from 3. Again, this shooting is exactly what got him on the bench in the first place. And it hasn't really gotten much better, and I'm very worried about how the Warriors are going to end up playing in in the play-in. Although, as a LeBron fan, I really hope they continue to play this bad because that would just mean another win against Curry for LeBron on an even playing field. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. Curry literally cannot beat LeBron on an even playing field. He can't. It's that, like, he cannot. It is that simple. He cannot. 2015, the Cavs, they played the Warriors in the finals. Steph Curry, yes, he played well. Kyrie was injured. Kevin Love was injured. So that's not an even playing field. LeBron going against Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala. That's not an even playing field. 2017, 2018, also not an even playing field because they had Kevin Durant on the roster. That is an OP lineup. No one in the history of this sport is beating that team. No team ever assembled in the history of the sport is beating that team. And 2016, he lost. Obviously, he lost to a fully healthy LeBron team. And then, let's see, what other years? Because they played in a lot of play-in games. Now, the last year in the play-in, they ended up blowing the game completely. I also remember, last year in the playoffs, they ended up blowing the series completely because Mr. Steph Curry wasn't so clutch. And LeBron James was just better than him. And what else? Let me think. In the play-in, when LeBron ended up hitting that game-winning 3 over Steph Curry's head, it's like every single time LeBron has proven time and time again that he is better than Steph. But people still want to say this is the Steph Curry era and stuff like that. Like, no, get that out of here. LeBron is better than him, and Steph Curry will never be better than LeBron, no matter how badly you want him to be. But I digress. And this is just more proof of this. He scored 17 points in this game. And he's had multiple games where he's scored less than 10 points. If LeBron were to score less than 10 points in any game now, he would be crucified. The media would not let him live it down until he drops 50 the next day. And that's a huge difference of pressure from LeBron's standpoint to Steph Curry's standpoint. It just shows you how much better he is. Every single time I talk about Steph, I'm going to have to talk about LeBron because LeBron is better than him. And I'm going to keep doing that. And this, back with the Warriors, now, Klay Thompson, yes, they did end up winning, sure, but, like, Klay Thompson has to shoot a lot better. Like, he can't go out like that. I mean, 28 points is still not bad, but 6 of 14 from the three-point line, that's going to hurt them going deeper into the playoffs if they end up making the playoffs. Now, Jimmy Butler, he also didn't end up playing this game, which explains why the score was so low for the Miami Heat. And let's just look at the box scores just to see. Yeah, Bam ended up leading the team in scoring, 10 for 21, 24 points. Let's see. Terry Rozier ended the game with 15 points, 7 of 18 from the field. Jamie Jacquez Jr. ended the game with 12 points, and Haywood Highsmith ended the game with 15 points, 6 of 7 from the field. So, obviously, the rest of the team did not really play as well compared to Golden State, and Golden State didn't really play that well either, but it was good enough to get them to be able to get a bunch of wins, and it was good enough for them to be able to score the ball enough and get enough wins so that way they can stay afloat and the Houston Rockets don't just sneak up on them and steal that spot. And that's honestly the biggest fear that the Warriors should have right now. I know Draymond said he wasn't worried about Houston, but I really feel that quote is going to bite him. Like, I think Houston, they do have a very legitimate shot of making the play-in tournament and stealing the Golden State Warriors spot, which I'm not sure is a matchup that the Lakers would want to have. I don't know if they would want. Honestly, they probably would, because I see Dillon Brooks talking so much trash to LeBron, and that would just ignite LeBron, and LeBron would immediately just cook him for 40 points. I can totally see that happening right now, but I digress. More on the games that went on last night. The Mavericks ended up beating the Kings 132-96. So far, this Mavericks team has been playing a lot better recently. They play the Kings yet again on Friday. But this win, very dominant win coming in from the Dallas Mavericks, a win that they desperately needed. Luka ended the game with 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. Unfortunately, though, while Luka might be the best player in the NBA right now, he's not going to win the MVP because Jokic is going to end up winning the MVP with the numbers that he drops and the triple-doubles that he averages, and the fact that that right now, if I look at the conference standings, let me just go right ahead, the Nuggets have the number 1 seed, and that's really going to be the ultimate deciding factor. Like, if the Mavs were maybe 4th, I could probably see it. But still, it's the fact that this man, Jokic, is doing what he's doing while leading his team to a winning record. Like, that is just that is unbelievable coming in from Jokic. And just looking at the rest of the box scores, Kyrie ended the game with 24 points, 8 assists, and they all shot relatively well, both Kyrie and Luka Doncic. 10 of 18 from Luka and 10 of 19 from Kyrie. Now, Gafford ended the game 5 of 7, 10 points. PJ Washington ended the game with 14 points, 5 of 11 from the field. And Tim Hardaway Jr. ended the game with 22 points. So, obviously, this team, like, they're a unit and they can make noise in the playoffs. I think if they go up against the Suns, they are easily going to beat them. Now, on the Kings side, however, Keegan Murray, 17 points. De'Aaron Fox, 18 points. Sabonis, still keeping his double-double streak alive, 12 points and 11 rebounds, and one off of a triple-double. And that's basically it in terms of scoring for the Kings, because the rest of the players, they did not score that well, and they did not score that efficiently either. So the efficiency is what caused them to tank and lose this game. Next game on the list is the Thunder going up against the Pelicans. Now, the Thunder, they ended up winning 119-112. So, very impressive game coming in from the Thunder right now. 24 Shai, this is the first time I've seen Shai Gilgeous get less than 31 points. So, at least when I've been doing these reviews. 24 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds. Jalen Williams ended the game with 26 points and 5 assists. Chet Holmgren ended the game with 16 points and 9 rebounds. The Chet Holmgren Rookie of the Year talk is quiet. No one thinks he's Rookie of the Year anymore because Victor Wembanyama is clear-cut the best rookie. I knew it coming into the draft. I knew he was going to be the best. There were so many people that wanted to be different and be like, oh my god, Scoot is so good, and Chet is just as good, and he's literally just as tall. No, he's not. No, he is not, and neither of those players are going to be better than Wemby. Even like the Thompson brothers, like a lot of people were saying that they could be better than him. No one is going to be better than a 7'4" player that can dribble like a guard. That is just unheard of, and that's something that's never going to happen ever again. Unless his brother just decides to come in and terrorize the league too. Yes, Victor has a brother. It's like, oh my god, there's 2 of them. Like, one alien isn't enough. But regardless, never mind. I'm not even going to say that man's name because I do not like what he does outside of the court. But everyone else, they shot rather well, and they shot very efficient. Now, on the Pelicans side, CJ ended the game with 23 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, with 41 minutes played. Zion ended the game 29 points, 10 assists as well. And that was basically it in terms of scoring for these teams. Yeah, like it's been really one-sided with the scoring so far. It's really only been like one player, except for the Lakers, which was multiple people scoring. But the Bucks, they had only one key player scoring. Now, the Warriors, they only really had one key player scoring. And now with this game, it's, well, would you look at that? I could finally use this. How do you guys like that? So, basically, I just got an update from Woj saying that Mitchell Robinson is expected to be active and available to play for the Knicks going up against the Raptors. Now, this is huge coming in from the Knicks because Mitchell Robinson is one of the better rim protectors in this league. Well, a good rim protector. I wouldn't say he's one of the best. He's a good rim protector, and he's a very efficient scorer. Like, the reason why I say this is because he operates the pick and roll rather well. Pairing him up with Jalen Brunson is going to work wonders for this Knicks team. And now we're starting to see a lot of these Knicks players end up getting healthy coming towards the playoff time, which is what they need. Right now they're fourth. Last I checked, they are fourth in the Eastern Conference, and the fact that they're fourth without having Julius Randle on the roster is very, very impressive. And I'm just going to confirm this. Yep, Woj did tweet this out. It was an ESPN notification, but Mitchell Robinson, he will be most likely participating against the Raptors. And if he returns, this is a very big boost, not just in their defense, but also in their offense. Having that center that can operate the pick and roll with Jalen Brunson is going to work wonders for the team. And hopefully they can make that work. But with that, those are all the games that ended up happening yesterday, and we're out of time for this third segment, so tune in for the fourth segment, where I talk a little bit about the Houston Rockets and give a little apology to Jalen Green, because I really think that he deserves it after what he's been doing. So I'll be right back after this short break.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, I just want to apologize to Jalen Green and everything that he's been doing on the basketball court. Now, I haven't really talked about him much, but when I do bring up the Houston Rockets, I do make sure to bring up his name. Now, in the beginning of the season and in the beginning of this podcast, if you guys have been paying attention, you probably know my opinions on Jalen Green and how I thought that he is not the key player to this Houston Rockets team. Like, I believe that Sengun is the answer and the player that they should build around. But now I've somewhat had a change of heart. I think that Sengun should be paired up with Jalen Green, assuming Jalen Green can continue playing as well as he's been playing. Now, I don't know actually I do know what's happened. He's getting a new kid, and that's sort of motivating him. He said this in a quote, by the way. He said this in a press conference, saying that his child and his unborn child is motivating him into playing the way that he's been playing. And he's been absolutely phenomenal these previous games. Now, I don't know if you guys play 2K, but whenever you hit a shot, there's this green animation that you can get after you green the shot. And Jalen Green, every single time he's turned around, like straight up do a look away from the three, he's made it. And that's his green animation. Like, that is literally an automatic bucket whenever he turns around. It's like Steph Curry automatic. It's what he's doing on the court is insane. His ball handling, like, I've known he was a great ball handler, but I always just thought he was an immature shot chucker. Like, someone who just cares about themselves and because he did, like TJ said on the show, I recommend watching his sports podcast as well. He goes live directly after me. But he said on this podcast that Jalen Green, he is that shot chucker, but it's mainly because playing in the G League, when you are you're not necessarily playing for the team, but you're playing for yourself. A lot of his play is going to be relatively selfish, and he is going to do a lot of selfish things like hog the ball a little bit and go for a bunch of highlights. But the reality of the situation now is that he's hitting a lot of these shots. And he's creating a lot of really good shots for himself and his team. And this has propelled the Houston Rockets to make a late surge to go make the play-in tournament. And it's ridiculous because a lot of the shots that he's making are a lot of shots that he would normally miss. And he's sort of like, Jalen Green, like, well, my opinion on Jalen Green is sort of the opinion that I have on Jordan Poole now. Like, now, I think Jordan Poole is the immature shot chucker in the league. But Jalen Green, after these few games, he's really changed my mind. Now, obviously, these few games could be a fluke, and once that baby's born, he could go right back down to earth and be that shot chucker that I'm used to seeing. But given how well he's been playing and how consistent he's been playing recently, I don't think that's going to be the case for Jalen Green. I legitimately don't. I think that I could see Jalen Green's performance like this and the way he's been playing continue from this season going into the next season. I can see him making that next step, or the leap, I guess you could say, from being a pretty good player to a really good player, and then from a really good player to an all-star player. Now, with how talented the Western Conference is, I don't think he's going to make the Western Conference All-Star game next year. It's ridiculously talented, and he'd have to have a ridiculous season in order to make it. But I think right now the sky is the limit for him, and with how well he's been playing. Hopefully, now, what this could mean going into the playoffs, they could face an elimination game since they would be the 10th seed, and they'd have to play LeBron. Now, that is usually a death sentence coming in from going up against the Lakers, going up against LeBron. It's usually a death sentence to play LeBron, regardless of who you are. And he's almost always guaranteed to make the playoffs, so the odds are sort of stacked against him still. And being a LeBron fan, I don't really think they're going to do much. But I will say, with the team that they have, they're doing a lot better than what I thought. Like, for example, the Wizards, I thought the Wizards were going to do a lot better than the Rockets were going to do because they had Jordan Poole. And I figured the rest of the players on the team would just fall in. That's not been the case. But the Houston Rockets, they've sort of developed their own identity, and they've made themselves known as this gritty, tough team. Dylan Brooks, obviously, he's still a problem, just wanting to be the center of attention and being the villain of every single game. And I find that very odd, but he is showing a lot more improvement on the offensive side of the ball, much more improvement than Jordan Poole has shown. But I digress. I just wanted to have this session in the this section on the podcast just to apologize to Jalen Green, because I've been wrong about him, at least so far. There've been talks about on the internet. It's who would you rather have? About to be a father, Jalen Green, or Ramadan Kyrie? And for those of you who don't know, it is Ramadan now, and Kyrie is not supposed to be eating a lot of food. I don't really know. I don't want to say, I don't want to touch much on that, just because it's not my religion and I don't know exactly the rules, but I do know he is limited into what he eats and how often he eats. And Hakeem Olajuwon did this as well. And now Kyrie Irving is doing the same thing, practicing his religion. And it's honestly very, very impressive that he was able to have these games while celebrating Ramadan. And that game-winning left hook shot that Kyrie shot, he did that on Ramadan. And honestly, obviously, it's very impressive to being able to play at that level and not have a decent meal. I think that's the right word for it, right? Not having a meal that you'd expect from an NBA athlete. Usually you'd expect NBA athletes to eat a lot and a lot of good food for a few hours before the game, but going there and playing on an empty stomach, very, very impressive. And obviously it's a lot more than what the Nets provided him. Like, as a Brooklyn Nets fan, I do know that the Mavs, they give Kyrie a personalized chef for Ramadan, but the Nets, they only really gave him like a banana. Now, I don't know if that was intentional. I also don't know if they were just responding to the fact that Kyrie doesn't play games anyway, so why would they give in a lot of effort? But Dallas really knows how to treat their players, and that's honestly probably why we're not getting much news on Kyrie now getting upset at the organization, because they're treating him right, and they're probably treating him a lot better than Brooklyn is treating him. But I digress. Again, this section was supposed to be to apologize to Jalen Green. I am sorry. I wasn't familiar with your game, as Shaq would say, but yeah, I just wasn't familiar with his game, and I gotta apologize for that. But with that, that is the end of the show segment, and that is the end of this show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as always, please use the link in the description to get your comments recognized. And I'm just looking at the chat right now. Just be sure to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Random Twitcher, hello sir, can I take you to dinner? I have a girlfriend, so no, you cannot do that. Unless I'm allowed to bring her. But regardless, that's the end of the show segment. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet.